Hello and welcome everyone to another Jungian analysis video. The topic of this video will not be a manga or an anime, but a DC comic, specifically a comic event. In this video I want to describe the Jungian psychology of an event that threw Batman and the other heroes into the crucible. An event in my mind brimming with Jungian themes and motives. An event called Dark Knight Metal. If you haven't read Dark Knight Metal, beware, because I will be spoiling you, and if you're interested in my other videos, links are down in the description. But without further ado, let's get started. First, a bit of the story of Dark Knight Metal. Dark Knight Metal sees Batman and the other heroes pit against dark and distorted alternate versions of himself. You have the Batman who laughs, an amalgam of the Joker and Batman. You have Red Death, a distorted version with the Speed Force. And you have the devastated Batman, who infected himself with the Doomsday virus. These distorted versions now invade the main DC universe and wreak havoc. Harper then tells the heroes that the place where these versions come from is called the Dark Multiverse. And in Harper's own words, oceanic and subconscious realm that our world floats on. We also find out that Batman is supposed to be the doorway for the intruders from the other side. Batman is eventually turned into the doorway and the distorted versions of himself come true, led by a sort of bat god called Barbatos. The heroes, Superman, Wonder Woman and others, now need to journey to the Dark Multiverse to save Batman. At the same time, Harker is on a mission to destroy the Dark Multiverse. She means to do this by throwing the Anti-Monitor's brain, a very powerful celestial being, into the Dark Multiverse, effectively destroying it. Now there's a lot to unpack here, but let's start at the beginning. The Dark Multiverse, an oceanic and subconscious realm that our world floats on, is very reminiscent of the collective unconscious. For those who don't know, Jung said we all have several layers of consciousness. We have the personal unconscious, the collective unconscious and the ego. The personal unconscious houses our personas, the mask we put on to deal with the outside world, as well as our shadows, our repressed desires and uncivilized impulses. The collective unconscious is a consciousness shared by all humans, which expresses itself as archetypes in our cultures and minds. Archetypes such as the wise old man or the trickster. Lastly, the ego is the part of the self that selects the most relevant information from the environment and chooses a direction to take based on it. Exploring your shadow, as well as the archetypes, are part of what Jung calls individuation, becoming everything that's in your potential to be. Later on we find out that the Dark Multiverse used to be called the Forge of Worlds, manned by a being called the Forger. For eons, we learn, the Forger had the task of creating realities, which he based on the hopes and fears of every living thing. The most stable of those realities became part of the main multiverse. The Forger would then dispatch its dragon to destroy the unstable worlds, so their energy could return to the Forge to be used anew. The name of that dragon? Barbatos. And what the Forger reminds me of is a Jungian archetype called the Magician. The Magician is an archetype explored more in depth by Robert Moore. As he says, a magician is a knower and user of technology. He is an initiate of secret and hidden knowledge of all kinds. The magician or the forger can change the nature of things. He can turn ugly lumps of iron into beautiful swords, or dark and distorted worlds into utopias. The forger takes the bones of the earth and through the art of fire he melts, he hammers and transforms. The forger, like the magician, is a master of technology and has hidden knowledge. The magician can also symbolize the Senex, the wise old man archetype in Jungian psychology, an archetypal image of meaning and wisdom, who can act as a guide to the hero. We know him as Gandalf. We know him as Morpheus. We know him as Obi-Wan Kenobi. The magician at his fullest is the archetype of awareness and of insight, guiding us through life, calmly observing and making decisions through deep inner knowledge. The forger, however, is killed by his dragon, and Barbatos sets out to destroy the multiverse. Jung sometimes saw dragons in a very Christian way, as the arch-enemy of the hero, the dragon that needs to be slain for the hero to achieve his goals. And this could be all Dark Knight Metal is, a story of heroes fighting a dragon. Guided by the wise old man, they will slay the evil, they will cast the devil down to the pits of hell. But I don't think it's that simple. The first clue that Barbatos may be more than he seems is in his name. Barbatos in Latin means bearded. That could mean old man or philosopher. So he, in a way, could also be the Senex, because the wise old man also has a dark side. The devouring father, who dominates and destroys his children. Kronos being a good example of this. And Barbatos certainly does this, causing massive destruction. Later on, we find out that Barbatos has been manipulating Batman from behind the scenes the entire time, steering events so he would become the doorway. In fact, Barbatos is the bat who flew through Bruce Wayne's window and inspired him to become the Batman. What this reminds me of is the manipulator, the shadow side of the magician. The manipulator abuses his power to keep us in the dark. He does not guide us as a magician does. He directs us in ways we cannot see. He maneuvers us by withholding from us information we need for our own well-being. The manipulator is often cruel and enjoys his supremacy over us. So could this be what Barbatos is? Is he the dark side of the wise old man? Is he the shadow side of the magician? Maybe. But according to literature, the demon Barbatos can lead men to hidden treasures that have been hidden by the enchantment of magicians. Let's put this aside for now, however, and look further. Further proof of Barbatos' dual nature can be seen in that he's called a dragon. And the mythological form of the dragon is the snake. The snake has multiple aspects. A snake can both kill as well as cure. It can renew itself by shedding its skin, and in many stories around the world is a force of life and generativity. The snake is seen in many cultures around the world, including in Christianity as the snake in the Garden of Eden. In Christian mythology, the snake is linked to the devil, and this is also clearly seen in Barbatos. He has bad wings, he has clawed hands and feet, he looks like a devil. But to Jung, the devil is not a representation of evil, but a force that drives us towards individuation. He is the snake, yes, but the snake that convinces us to eat the apple and so gives us insight into good and evil. In this form he is Lucifer, Lightbringer, who sheds light on our shadow. The snake, however, can also destroy. He can be the devouring serpent. We see this in Babylonian myths as Tiamat, or in Egypt as Apophis. Jung further saw the snake as a chthonic and at the same time spiritual being, symbolizing the unconscious. This would mean that Barbatos is not simply the dark side of the Senex, but the collective unconscious itself. So the forger tasked the collective unconscious with destroying itself. Now what this reminds me of is repression. The unconscious suppression of psychic contents that are incompatible with the attitude of the consciousness. As I said with the ego, it selects the most relevant information from the environment and chooses a direction to take based on it. Now, what this could lead to is only certain parts of ourselves getting pushed to the forefront, certain acceptable parts of ourselves. The other parts are repressed. If this repression goes on long enough, a neurosis occurs, a psychological crisis due to a state of disunity within oneself. How we see this is through the evil Batman. The evil Batman that help Barbatos are based on Bruce Wayne's hidden fears and desires. Red Death is his fear to lose the one he loves, but perverted. Murder Machine is his love for Alfred taken to the extreme, and the Batman who laughs is his extremely logical side without the morality to keep it under control. Batman has repressed these sides of himself for so long that they have broken through his conscious control and now wreak havoc. But this repression does not just go for Batman, although because he is Batman the effects of his repression are the most destructive. Remember, the Forge of Worlds is a place where universes based on our hopes and fears are made. That also means our darkest hopes and fears, the parts we don't like to think about. The Forger had the task of pushing acceptable universes to the forefront and to destroy the unstable ones, and in that sense has the role of the ego. He pushed the acceptable universes to the forefront and tried to destroy our shadows. But the shadow is not evil. It can represent our ugly desires and be destructive, yes, but it's not evil. It is simply unknown to us and therefore we fear it. And a neurosis is not all bad either. According to Jung, a neurosis is really an attempt at self-cure. It is an attempt to self-regularize psychic systems to restore the balance. This flips the script. It is the forger who is the manipulator. The forger abused his powers to keep us in the dark. He withheld information from us we needed for our own well-being. Barbatos the demon is not the great evil we think he is. He is in fact a psychopump, a psychic factor that mediates unconscious contents to the consciousness. He, I think, at its core is an archetype that encompasses all and unifies duality. I think that Barbatos is the archetype of Mercury. Mercury is both helper and trickster. He is the evasive devil, but he's also the wise old man, and in both capacities he can lead us out of darkness. He is the devouring serpent, the dragon of chaos, but he's also the Ouroboros, the serpent dragon that bites his own tail, representing eternity. Mercury is the individuation process itself and the hidden knowledge that the forger tried to hide from us. We see his influence when he stops Harper from throwing the anti-monitor's brain into the Forge of Worlds. He turns her into the Night Raven, a form of himself. The brain in this situation symbolizes the ego, our consciousness, in a last-ditch effort to shield itself from the unconscious. But the dams have been broken and the unconscious will no longer be denied. Dark Knight Metal at its core is a story of individuation. After Harper failed, we see Batman going down into the abyss, into the belly of the beast, and uses the Joker, his symbolic shadow, to fight his other shadows. He wrests away the hidden knowledge from the forger and rises in shining armor. He is now clad in the armor of individuation and the heroes use it to cast Barbatos down. This is necessary, because you need to restore the balance. You need to put the demon back in its bottle. No longer unseen, no longer unknown, but under control for now. Batman restores balance, but the fight is not over. Batman has faced his shadows, but the other heroes are now also aware of their shadows, and they will have to face them someday. This was my Jungian analysis of Dark Knight Metal. I hope you liked it. Like if you liked it. Share if you want, because that does help my channel out. Subscribe if you want more content. And see you next time.